Hey y'all, they say we're live, so we live. Hey, hey, hey. How y'all doing on this Thursday? Let's see. Depending on where you are in the world, it's afternoon, evening, or morning. It's night for me, so buenas noite. Uh, or I can say buenas noches, or kalinita in Greek. So let me know where you at. And what time of day or what language you speak. Because we're talking about languages tonight, y'all. We talk about languages. We're talking about languages. So hit me with it. I see y'all are already, there was some early birds in the chat. I love it. I love it. Let me say hello to the peoples. I think I'm getting a little like glitchy, but let me know if it keeps up. Not knowing that I can do much about it right now, but let's see. Standing up, Mama knows. I know. See, Copious Cat. Look, I was trying to get the banner up and all this other stuff. I'm like, hey, that's how life be sometimes. How the Howard Worldview. Hey, the Howards are here. Hey, how y'all doing? Winnie be in the place to be. Buenas noches, familia. Oh, yes, yes, muy bien. I have to watch myself because now I'm also learning Portuguese. So it would be, muito bem. Uh, so I'm like, ooh, now I have to like catch my mouth sometimes. Hey, K Renee in the house. In the house. Let me hit this air conditioner. There we go. Hey, K Renee. Hey everyone, who else is in the house? Meg, how you doing? Vicky G, hey, hey, hey. Oh, look, our Black Utopia. Hey, fam. Hey, fam. Yes, yes. Okay, so Kobe's cat is in San Diego. All right. San Diego, I've been there once. Very beautiful. Oh my goodness. Hola todos. Yes. Boa noite. Lori's in the house. Hola. Hola. All right. Hey, Norman. Hey, Norman. Glad you could catch us live. And Kay Renee said, from Cali, working on my Portuguese. Me and you both, girl. Me and you both. But at least he was teaching me some new words today too. So it's all good. We are in it together. So y'all know how I start these lives. I like to kind of, give you an update on how things are going. Oh, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Krishan Wright. I'm the founder of Black Set Global and the host of the Black Set Global podcast. Black Set Global exists to empower and inspire members of the African diaspora to pursue a life abroad. So if that's you, you're in the right place. And while you're here, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you will see more of this incredible content. I'm biased, but I'm going to go for it. Hey, Teresita. Hola from Florida. Hey, all right. Action VJ. Hey, hey, hey. All right. Oh, let's see. Meg says she's in Michigan and needs to get back to learning Spanish. I also want to learn Italian. Wow, this is great. This is fantastic. Well, so glad so many of you are here. If you could, when I bring up our guests, if you have any questions, feel free to put a Q in the chat so that we can distinguish your comment from, y'all just talking to one another and having a love fest. So I'll give you a couple of quick updates before I bring my guests. It is the 26th of October, which means we are 1 week and a day away from the Move to Portugal Virtual Summit. Yes, Black Set Global and Our Black Utopia have joined forces, and we are putting on this extravaganza. So for those of you who want to move to Portugal, like I did 7.5 weeks ago, this is the summit for you. So this is your one-stop shop. We have attorneys, immigration attorneys, and business attorneys, tax professionals, real estate professionals, you name it. People talking about healthcare, Black expats talking about how they found the place that they live, real estate professionals telling you like where are the opportunities. And I know how y'all like, but yo, How am I going to pay for this? I need a job. Guess what? We have Libria Jones, the remote work queen. She herself is coming to tell you, to teach you about how to find remote work. And we're going to be talking about getting your finances right and the adjustments. So, like I said, this is your one stop shop. We have the team of experts there to help you get from where you are now to where you want to be. So, definitely, definitely get your ticket. It should be in the description of this video. If it is not, we'll add it. Okay. Okay. All right. Let me actually, you know what? Let me see. When I said I'm gonna add it right now because I know somebody's gonna say, "Oh, I'm gonna do it later." And then guess what? The moment will come and pass. And you want to do this now. Why? Because ticket prices are going up. On October 29th, our Black Utopia, I know you're in the chat. So if I'm incorrect on that date, let me know. Keep me honest, but get your ticket now. Do not wait. And all access pass ticket holders have extra content coming to them, some sessions that I know you'll get a lot of value out of. So this is not like a stitching together YouTube clips or Instagram posts or things that you saw in the news about NHR. No, this is the latest and greatest from the people who do this for a living, right? And have degrees and all that stuff, right? And see, look, be like Action VJ. Action VJ said, got my ticket on day one. Be like Action VJ. Get your ticket. You won't be disappointed. I know I'm looking all good. Oh, hey, Locating Cozy, one of our YouTube channel members. And you too can be a YouTube channel member. So you can join us for some quality time. Awesome, awesome. All right. All right. So without further ado, we are talking about language. As you know, I moved to Portugal, like I said, 7.5 weeks ago. And in preparation for the move, I had to get comfortable with language, learning a language. I'm 49 years old or 49 years young. And I had to think about, like, hey, am I really comfortable with learning a new language? And primarily because my first choice for moving abroad was to an English speaking country. The first couple times I was going abroad, I chose English speaking countries because, look, it was my first time out the gate. I needed to make it easy. But the more I started to travel, the more I started pushing myself. Went to France, went to Greece, went to Iceland. They have a lot of characters. And also in New Zealand, the Maori, right? They have their language. But the thing that I realized was that I needed to push myself because, look, I'm a smart woman. I can learn another language. So that is why I am having our next guest on, who is the fabulous Kaywanda. Woo-hoo-hoo, Kaywanda
Hey
Lamb
y'all.
of Spanish for Black Girls.
Hey, hey, hey. What's up? Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, thank you for being here. This is an amazing topic. This is in your wheelhouse because you are phenomenally brilliant and you have spent much of your career in the language in teaching people how to
Mhm.
learn another language. So, if you don't mind introducing yourself to our audience.
Hey y'all. Hi everyone. My name's Kaywanda Lamb. I'm the CEO and founder of Spanish Girls. I also run Spanish for Small Business. I'm an 18-year educator, certified Spanish language teacher in the state of Texas, and serial entrepreneur. So I created Spanish for Black Girls right kind of in the pandemic where I was tired of hearing folks talk about us in these internet streets. You know, the Black men couldn't quit it. Your boy, what was his name, that was always talking about Black women? I was like, forget y'all. What can I do? What
Oh,
can I
yeah.
be? I was like, God, I want to create something for Black women. And at the time, I was working on a course for entrepreneurs, and I decided, you know what? Everybody else can wait. I want to help us. And so I literally hit the ground running. This idea came to me in the shower. I was talking to God about it, and it just popped in my spirit. And I was on my way to Mexico like a few days later. Y'all, I spent my whole trip to Mexico like at my friend's countertop building Spanish for Black girls. And so that's how much I love y'all. And 2 years later, the rest is history. It's a beautiful community of professional Black women who desire to be conversationally fluent. We're not teaching you everything under the sun, but we are teaching you what you need. So that's me. That's me. That's me.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love also, and I didn't realize that this was born out of the pandemic because Blacks a Global was also born
Mhm.
out of the pandemic. So to meet another fellow entrepreneur, fabulous
Yay!
Black woman who was like,
Yay!
look, I know the world's on fire. This is the best time to do
Get
this.
to Spanish. Literally, that's what it was. I was like, okay, what skills do I have that I can help us? Because I'm also like, I have a single mom brand that I've been in for 10 years. And I was writing things and creating things for them. And I was like, what can I do for more Black women? And then I thought, it's about time y'all learn this language. I'm tired of y'all being on these apps for years and still talking about y'all not fluent. Come on over here and let's get it. So it's just been so much fun creating.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. And you touched on something that's really important because sadly, I took Spanish in school from I think 3rd grade to 12th grade.
Mm,
And
en serio.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
no
sí,
hablas. Wow.
habla un poco
Sí, sí,
español.
sí. Ujú,
Some of it I still remember,
ujú,
but the majority of it, and I was never conversational. Just and I excelled. I had A's,
mhm.
straight A's, right? I could pass the tests.
So this is as an educator, let me just tell you what it is. And, I
Mhm.
taught for years in, when I was in the classroom, and I would say, okay, y'all, this is great, but we are testing them enough. We're writing, we're reading, we're listening. It's good. We need to speak more. So in my classroom, I just started doing what I wanted to do. I would do all the things we were supposed to do. Okay. But then I would also challenge my students to speak. Now I got labeled the hard teacher, the strict teacher, but guess what? Let me tell y'all, I get messages from my adult students who I taught 15 years ago who are now adults and grown people with their own families. This year, one gentleman on LinkedIn was like, Miss Lamb, I don't know if you remember me, but you taught me at the early part of my career, y'all. And he was like, I was in Colombia and I haven't had Spanish since high school. He said, I was able to talk to family. I was able to get around. All my Hispanic friends are always like, where'd you learn Spanish? From high school, this man remembers because I made them focus on speaking. And
Yeah.
so I get messages all the time from sweet babies who are now grown ups who are like, thank you. So it's not your fault. And also to our teachers' credit, the education system, the way they tell us, the way stuff is written, we're just doing the best we can, right? It's not until later on people are starting to realize we need to focus more on speaking. And so
Mm,
that's what I decided to do. So that's why I say I teach you conversational Spanish in
mhm,
90 days in Spanish for Black girls, even though we have, 6 months to be together or we have a year to be together because those are the two plans. But you can really go through the coursework in 90 days. And I want us, if like, I have some ladies who are like, hey, I'm working with native speakers right now. I need to learn this
mm,
language as fast as possible. They go through it really quickly. Other people kind of take their time. But yeah, the conversational piece is so key because you need, listen, I know we're going to get into it, but the community, the reason why it's all Black women is because I've had other students, other grown-ups that I've taught, and they'd be like, I didn't feel comfortable in my college classroom, or I didn't feel
mm,
comfortable here, or I felt kind of, when we're in more spaces that look like this, sometimes
mhm,
people don't feel as comfortable, and maybe the person teaching didn't make them feel comfortable
mm,
or said something and it made them self-conscious. And so I got that from a couple women when I was, teaching in the pandemic because I've been running my own business since 2015 on the side while I was still in the classroom. And that's why I have Spanish for Small Business first. So, anyway, I was like, you know what? Let's build community. Let's have a space where we look like each other so we
mhm.
don't have where people are feeling like, I don't feel comfortable speaking. And when I tell you, when we get together, it is so beautiful. Like everybody just loves on each other. They're excited when we get new members. It's just really
Oh
fun.
my
Glad I did
God.
it.
Yeah, and that's the best way where you can pair learning and fun, right? Because the
Mhm.
human brain, right? We go towards the things that we enjoy. That's just human
Mhm.
nature. So when you
Mhm.
can pair learning and make it fun, you want to do more of it. It's not feeling like a chore, right? It's like
Exactly.
Yeah, and when you can take what you learn and apply it, which that's the thing that I think I know. I'm going to say this as I know is one of the gaps in the educational system in the States because, I'm a traveler, you're a traveler, and I see people who are outside of the United States and they speak English in addition to other
For other
languages,
languages.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Americans, can sometimes only barely speak English, and that's I'm not going to go on my rant, but I think it's also it's an impediment, but it
Mhm.
could also be by design, right?
Yeah.
Because all of these people that live in other countries and they learn English, and of course, right, it's the money, it's the language of currency.
Mhm.
However, we as Americans, we're at a competitive disadvantage to go to other countries and seek opportunities elsewhere, especially if English isn't the primary language spoken. Because if a hiring manager in Spain has a choice between someone who is a native than someone who's coming from the States and may not have a command of the language as much as the person that's there, that's a challenge.
Mhm.
And conversely, in the States, we have people that come from a variety of countries and they're able to acclimate very
All the
easily
time.
all
And
the time.
And their English may not be perfect. Now, notice we've all worked with native speakers, or we've been friends with native speakers, or had people in our neighborhood, and their English wasn't 100%, but
Mhm.
they were trying and they were learning. And of course, we have people who come here who can't speak, English, and they start taking classes and they start learning.
Yeah.
And so you just hit the nail on the head, they say, right? I think it's super important for us to acquire a second language and then a third because it makes us more marketable. It makes us good citizens of the world, I think, too, right? Native speakers are always like, oh my gosh, you speak Spanish, And if I have my hair braided up when I'm traveling, they think I'm from like Nicaragua or Panama or something
Mhm.
like that. Skin color, I'm sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, in Europe, of course, they're all landlocked, so they learn the languages because they want to go, on holiday. They want to travel. It's just normal for them, and it's a
Yeah.
part of their school system. So I
Mhm.
remember asking one of the ladies I knew when I was in grad school. She spoke 7 languages. She was from Russia. Actually, she was Estonian, so she was from Estonia, which is near Russia.
Yeah.
So she had, Estonian, Russian, Spanish, Italian, a couple other ones, English. And, she was married to an Argentine. And I was just like, she was also an educator. And I'm like,
Mhm.
the world is open to her because she can speak those multiple languages.
Yes.
Because while she was a kid, nobody said you can only do one. The thing that
Mhm.
most people don't know is that little kids can pick up multiple languages between the ages of 3 and 5. They're sponges.
Oh.
So this is why now there's a big push for dual language in the US.
Mhm.
Dual language is totally different from the way we do middle school and high school because they're learning science and math and everything else in that, language. So parents, get your kids in as soon as possible.
Yes.
And it's not that we don't appreciate English, it's so that again they can, the world is open to them. They can be more global, they can connect. Let me tell you something, and I know you know it, but for other people, when you understand another language, you begin to start understanding people. You begin to start making
Mm.
connections. You begin to start building friendships, right? You understand in that language differently. The way you express yourself is just beautiful. And so I just love it. And I love when women come and they're just like, I want to learn. Everybody's goal isn't to get, more money or to get a new job. Some of it is just, my patients, only speak Spanish and I want to be able to help them. You know,
Mm.
people who are like my family members that, I just married into this family that my mother-in-law only speaks Spanish and they want to learn to be able to connect with her. There's just so
Mm.
many, byproducts of learning a new language.
Oh, absolutely. And, as somebody, like I said, I'm 49 and have had exposure to other languages, but now learning Portuguese, and I was preparing about a little over a year before I got here.
Mhm.
And then since I've been here, I haven't had the time to devote to my online program, but every day I walk out the door,
Yes.
I'm
You're confronted
exposed.
with it.
Exactly. And so I get surprised because like the trajectory, and I can't say I'm conversation. Well, I don't know. I would say, look, you gonna tell me if this counts. This week I've had two conversations and I was able to have a full conversation in Portuguese without slipping to English or switching to, oh, I only know so much, which is my usual out.
Mhm,
and,
mhm,
and I was like, did I do that? Now, one was at the grocery store, and then I'm also been able to like hear things and people ask me questions. I may not know how to fully respond, but I'm
mhm.
able to like understand and start to decipher words where in the past it was just like almost like noise. And
Yeah.
so that I think is just immersion. But all that goes to say that regardless, and I'm curious, your point on this is like, is there a cap or a limit? Because we have people in our community that want to move abroad and they're
Mhm,
in their 20s all the way to 70s and 80s, and they might be ruling out countries that English is not the primary language or first language because they're fearful of
mhm.
learning a language at whatever age they are. Is it too late? Is there a cap?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, I have a student, who's in her 60s, and I have a student that's in her 20s. So we have ladies from, different ranges. And when I was in undergrad in my 20s, we had a gentleman who was 80 in class. And when I say he was running circles around us, and we were like, how do you make A's and how do you this? And I was a good student. I made great grades. I remember we were in like Latin American history class, and we had to learn so much, right, about the culture and civilization of all these places. And this guy just was just spouting it off. And we were just like, bro, how are you keeping all that together? And he talked about the fact that his lived experience in life over 80 years
Mm.
that played a role in him being able to pick up the language faster, share, and just all that information that we were learning for the first time. He had seen and experienced some of this. And so I would just say that when you come to learning a language, come with wonder and curiosity and a
Mm.
desire to really get it. I hear so many people say, I want to be fluent. And I know most of those people don't really mean fluency like I have. They mean, I want to order food. They mean, I want to travel.
Mm.
I want to just be able to get by. Right. And so I just want you to know I'm a real teacher. So I'm gonna teach you more Spanish than you bargained for. But I don't think we should tell ourselves that it's too late at any age, because when you
Mhm.
do that, you've already created a mental block that says you can't do it.
Wow.
I had a free challenge last week I was running, and one lady, she said, no matter what I've done, I just can't do it. I said, you've got to stop saying that, because literally, really, what it really takes is a little work. It takes a little elbow grease, and sometimes we think we're doing it. When I was teaching, I used to have to tell parents, I said, they're not really studying. And the mom was like, he's in his room for 3 hours and I'm watching him read a book for 3 hours. Ma'am, no homework I give, nobody should be spending 3 hours on it. I said, he doesn't know how to study. I said, looking at it for 3 hours is not studying. Okay. So when you're
Mm.
language, you need to practice it. You need to write it. You need to read it. You need to listen to it. But that doesn't mean you have to do 100%, in each one of those skills.
Oh.
You're speaking what you're doing when you go out to the grocery store, when you go
Mm.
out and about in Portugal, you're going to pick up more Spanish. Like you said, at first it sounded like noise when you were learning all by yourself in your online program and all that. And now you're in it. And it's like, oh my God, that made sense. So your
Yes.
brain connections. Your brain is connecting dots. Your brain is starting to hear the cadence, the intonation, right? The pronunciation, how the language flows. You're going to be picking up, ooh, after you've been there for a little while, you're going to be like, ooh, people in Northern Portugal talk like this. Folks in the center talk like that. People over here do this. This is, you're going to start picking up those things. And so let's stop telling ourselves that something is hard and let's get to it, because we already wear capes. We're already excellent. We're already, go getting Black women. So why should we tell ourselves that we can't learn a language? And somebody said, is this about a general chat? Well, I mean, we're talking about Spanish for Black girls, but yes, language in general, because she's had some. Look, I'm trying to get the hair together. She's had,
It's all good.
like, what are we doing? What are we
There's
doing?
that one piece. There you go. You got it.
She's had some Spanish and she's learning Portuguese, which those two come from Latin. Latin,
Yes.
has 5 Romance languages, right? Or the Romance languages that come from Latin. So we got Spanish, we got Italian, we have Romanian. Did you know that? We have French,
Oh,
we have
wow.
Portuguese, and they come from Latin. Spanish comes from an oral version of Latin. So I had French in high school and I had Latin in high school. That's another reason why when I got to college, taking Spanish, I was breezing through it. So those of you out here who are watching, if you've had any of those languages before, you're going to start seeing the connections. Like I think you told me, Krishan, like, even if you don't know what it is, like, especially if you're reading Portuguese, you can look at it and be like, oh, that kind of looks like this word in Spanish. You can kind
Yes.
of out. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So don't limit yourself. There's no limit. So I'm not going to ever say there is because there
Mhm.
isn't. Also, I'll say this, and I know y'all are like, we're not on here for like scientific research, but um, there has been research showing that a bilingual brain delays the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia. And so, what does that mean? That means our brains need to be active. The
Mhm.
fact that our brain knows multiple languages, we're thinking, it's helping us focus. I'm not saying it stops it all the way, but it says that the research shows that it delays it. So maybe in non-bilingual brains, it comes on or onsets,
Mhm.
earlier. So just so many benefits, just get out there and live and go for it, right? And if you want support, if you need help, we have a beautiful community and course designed to help you, right? I labored over what should be in it, creating and thinking and just built it so that people could learn whether they could come and meet me live. I have some students who can never make it to our live sessions because they work at night and they just rock and roll through the course. They send me their questions, any kind of thing they have, and they go for it.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I think I want to go back to something that was said earlier. Just being able, like now that I'm here in
Mhm,
Portugal, and I've noticed two things is that one, even though I can't say I was ever really conversational in Spanish,
mhm,
sometimes I have to pull on the words either because I see similarities or because if I say yo falo un poco português, then
mhm,
they'll say, "Oh, español," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I know how to say what I need in Spanish,"
mhm.
and then I'm able to use that because, like we said earlier,
But you
most people
mixed
that
it,
you
but you
encounter
mixed it.
outside know more than
That's so
one language.
funny. You mixed it. You said eu falo um pouco português, kind of with
See,
a Portuguese accent, right? Porco, and I don't speak Portuguese, but I'm just kind of thinking about what I've heard. And so
yeah,
what's funny is one of my students I had in my one-to-one program last year, he's a social worker and he went to Portugal. I was telling you about that. And he
yeah.
loves Portugal. So he's thinking about moving too. And so
Oh,
I said, tell me how to say something in Portuguese. And he told me that, right? And
yeah.
I said, oh, did you know that in Old Spanish, Spanish to speak is spelled with an H, hablar. So we say yo hablo español. Well, in the old Spanish, it used to be spelled with an F. And it was Fablar, Favlar, something like favelar. And so,
Yeah.
so spell it how you would say I speak in Portuguese. Yo,
Eu falo,
uh,
Falo, un
Falo.
yeah.
Mhm.
So then, yes, I see. Okay, that's
So
fantastic. I
just
done learned something
so so
tonight.
so old Spanish would have been Fablo, and Portuguese is falo, yo falo. Okay, so
Yeah,
then we
falo.
change to the H.
Yeah.
Yo hablo. Okay,
Oh, and
yay.
that's interesting because I would like you said, in Spanish, it would
Mhm,
be like hablar,
mhm.
and and then I was always wondering, like, why is it
Yeah,
follow?
yeah.
But now that explains see, y'all
The
learn stuff when you come to
connection,
my
the
lives,
nerdy
okay?
connection. So, okay, I don't know what people thought this conversation was gonna be about. It's about whatever you wanna ask me about, and I'm just here to give y'all just hopefully the push to say whatever language you're learning, go for it. If you want
Yeah.
to move abroad, don't be afraid to move abroad. And I would say also visit the place that you're thinking about. Go see it. Go be
Mhm.
around the people. Even if it's for a week or a few days or a weekend or something. Absorb everything you can about it.
Mhm.
But don't be afraid. I have a girlfriend who lives in Playa del Carmen and she
Mm.
doesn't speak Spanish like she needs to, and she knows she needs to take my course. But she moved, she didn't let that stop her. She moved to Belize first, and then
Wow.
she moved to Playa, and then she
Yeah.
called me, she was like, "Okay, it's time for me. It's time for me to take your course." But she's able to get around, in the touristy areas. A lot
Mhm.
of people do speak English. Like you said, English is one of the top languages of business,
Mhm.
Chinese, Spanish, English. English used to be number two. It's kind of moving toward number three. As we can see, the Hispanic population is growing all over the world.
Oh,
People are starting to do business and more globally. And Chinese, obviously, because of the number of people. But yes, if we're talking about business, most people are probably pushing their people to learn English so they can
yeah.
communicate with us. And like you said, we got countries, people coming from everywhere to the US, getting
Yeah.
great jobs, right? And their English may not be perfect. So, what should stop you if you want to move somewhere else and your Portuguese isn't perfect? Um, just start. And then people will help you. People are really nice. Have you found that? So, what are the people like in Portugal? Have you found any mean or rude people?
No, I haven't found anyone who is mean or rude.
Hmm.
People have been very accommodating, especially of my early understanding of the language. Like yesterday, I had to return something at the store, and I'll always start the conversation in Portuguese. But
Hmm.
then if it gets to a point where I had to return something, I can't feel confident enough to, or at least I don't feel confident enough, I should say, yet to do something
Hmm.
like that. Like buying something, yes, but returning and explaining, oh, this didn't work, not
Hmm.
quite there yet, 7 weeks in.
Hmm.
So then I explained to him that, I'm not a native speaker. And he brought someone over who could help me. And, people are accommodating. And what I realize is when I go into situations, I want to blend in. I don't want to stick out as a foreigner because it allows me to have a greater depth of my experience here,
Hmm.
by knowing more of the language. Like I had this, I was on the bus the other day, and it was a bus that haven't taken before, and so I didn't know like what stop to get off to go
Hmm.
somewhere. And then I was like, I think I'm getting close. And I kind of had this look on my face, and it was nothing but me and some very, very old Portuguese people on the bus. And the bus driver was kind of like gruff, it was just like
Hmm.
doing his job. And so I rang the bell, or actually, I looked for the bell to ring, and I didn't have one by my seat. And one of the older women, she was asking me in Portuguese. She's like, "Oh, do you want me to ring it for you?" And I said, "Oh, yes, thank you." And then I think what she was telling me was like she didn't really care for the bus driver. She's like,
Hmm.
he doesn't say anything. He just drives the bus like she's gesturing. So I was like able to get context clues to like
Hmm.
understand. And it was so sweet of her to help me. But those are that's my day to day, is that people extending themselves to help. Especially if I get tripped up on a word, or like now as I'm going more and more through my environment, I'm starting to connect, and it's like, okay, I see this word more often. I'll take out my phone and I'll look it up. And so, like I said, it just allows me to have a richer experience.
I
And
love
so
that.
I think that the thing that we want to hit home for everyone is that it's not too late. Your brain is just as good as anyone else's. And the point that you made around like neuroplasticity, it's like our
Hmm.
brains are sponges. Even though it's not like the same as it was when we were younger, you allow yourself to be exposed to different material and different stimuli. Your brain is, creating these connections, and that allows
They're
you to have
beautiful.
a healthy brain.
Yes, and they're beautiful connections, you know?
Yes,
And I love
yes.
that you said that little old ladies were helping you because I had a similar experience one time when I was first studying abroad in Costa Rica. And we were like, going downtown out of our neighborhood. And, in Costa Rica, if y'all don't know this, everything's by landmarks. And so you ask, okay, what's the address here? And they'll be like, 250 meters from the supermarket. What? How am I supposed to get back? And
I'm
so
still learning meters.
so I'm on the bus, and and she's like, make sure to get on this bus. And it didn't,
Oh,
it didn't trigger at the time, but
mhm.
all the buses have like the neighborhood that they go to on. Okay.
Ah,
And
mhm.
so then you tell the bus driver you're 250 meters from wherever, and then you get off and you're in your neighborhood and you just kind of get your surroundings together, get your bearings and then walk to where your house is. Like, it's not like house numbers here. It's not like street
No.
names and stuff. And it is so wild to me. But I was just like, we're gonna go downtown and not be able to make it back. Make it back. So I love that. And also I have never encountered anybody that was mean or rude or whatever. And I've also been that person who, oh my God, like I am always the person people are asking for help on the plane. The little old Hispanic grandma sits by me. I'd be like, God, what you doing? But I guess he's like, no, I'm helping. Like when you have that long flight and you're like, okay, I'm about to go to sleep. Abuelita
Yeah.
quiere hablar. And you're like, abuelita, porfa. But and then like when I'm in a US airport, when I got back from Costa Rica this year, because
Mhm.
we do an immersion trip for the ladies in Spanish for Black girls. Those who want to go, it's extra, but we're going this year in January. And so when I got back this year, like, okay, next year, 2024 is almost here, y'all. That's what I'm talking about. So we went in January 2023. And so I get back, I got a late flight. I'm going through the airport in Florida. And I'm like, how did I get a connection? Why didn't I just fly straight through? Right. And there's this Hispanic lady. She's freaking out.
Oh,
She's in the US airport with all this English. And I just kept looking around like it wasn't Miami. It must have been like, it wasn't Fort Lauderdale. I think it must have been like Orlando. And I was like, they don't have, and I just kept walking through and I was like, okay, where are the people that speak Spanish? Where are all the signs and stuff? Because this
yeah.
lady's freaking out. So I finally I'm just like, okay, I just walk up to a stranger and I start talking to her to help her out, to let her know where to go and how to make it through this. And
Mhm.
I'm grateful that I have the language. Y'all see my bangs cutting up. I'm grateful that I have the language so that I can help people, and folks do that for us, and I
Yeah.
just appreciate it. Like that's why I wanted to ask you what your experience was like, because I've never had somebody say, "You American, go home." they
No,
understand
never.
they understand why we're seeking something new, okay? Why we
Yes.
had to take a break.
Yes. They're like, oh, you're new here. And I say, I'm new here. Where are you from? Estados Unidos. Oh,
Mhm,
wow. And then,
They want
then
to
we
know.
go into a conversation, or I'll say, devagar, slower, right? Because I can
Mhm,
usually understand if they speak a little slower. Again, those context clues. May not
mhm.
understand every word, but just enough to kind of get by. I know there's been a ton of comments and questions as we have been talking, so I don't want to ignore everyone in the comments. I'm getting to those now. Oh, and I see another channel member here. Hey, Kathy. Yes. Oh, yes. This is for K1. I love how ideas come to you. Congrats and glad
Oh,
God
thank
spoke to
you,
you.
Kathy. Thank you. You know what? I know that I'm an idea generator, right? So I'm just gonna put that out there, y'all. If y'all knew the other ideas I had, like 20,000, right? But I knew when that came, because sometimes, you get an idea and you're like, okay, maybe I'll table this for later. But I knew that in that season, in that moment, when I felt it in my heart, like God was saying, create this, right? And
Mhm.
when I tell y'all I hit the ground running, like I was, sharing on my social media, and just because you forget that your Facebook isn't just your family and friends, right? And so
True.
I was like, what y'all think? I want to do this. And, you know, there are people who were like, why would anybody want to do that when there's a
Mm.
when there's a this and there's
Those
a that?
folks.
And then I'd be like, girl, bye. Listen, you don't understand.
I
This
love
what
it.
I do. Okay, this is what I do. So let me ask people who actually want to learn. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
you got to protect your ideas. Just imagine if I didn't launch it. I have some students who literally sometimes are just so overjoyed, who are like, thank you for this community. Thank you for creating this. I have a young lady who is in the military, and when she joined, she was stationed in Texas.
Mm.
And she was like, oh my God, I'm the only one in my, I don't even know if it's called platoon or whatever, whatever it is, y'all. Don't let me call it wrong. But whoever group she was stationed with,
Mhm.
she's the only one that spoke Spanish, and they had a lot of vendors that would come in that were only Spanish speaking. So imagine you can't get your job done because there's a language barrier. And
Yeah.
so, she was working through the course. She was using the Spanish she had, and I said, okay, well, tell me what you need to say, and I would help her out. And just amazing. When I tell y'all, I will be interviewing her shortly, because when I tell you she is an exceptional student, some people come with the hunger to just learn
Mhm.
it all now. Some people, it's something fun for them to do. It's interesting. It's something they've always wanted to do. Whatever their reason, I say
Mhm.
we have room for you in Spanish for Black girls. And there are some people who are retired. And some people are always like, well, you said professional Black women. I say yes, because I want you to know the energy we have is that we're all about our business, right? I'm not over
Mhm.
here playing. I already told y'all I was that teacher that taught the curriculum and then added her own, okay,
Mhm.
spice to it so that my students actually learned. When I was first teaching, I was a part of a teacher organization called what was it? Association of American Teachers of Spanish and Portuguese, right?
Oh, wow.
And they offer the national Spanish exam, and then there's a national Portuguese exam.
Oh.
Obviously, gave my students the national Spanish exam. I had students score gold, silver, and bronze. Okay,
Wow.
they were not all Hispanic. And so and that's a big deal for the kids, right?
Yes.
And other schools I would go to that had more money and more funding than that small school that I was at wouldn't allow me to do the same thing, right? Wouldn't allow me to, it was just, sometimes there's always
Mm.
red tape and stuff. So when you say, well,
Yep.
why are you building your own business instead of, working in the classroom? I love teaching. I taught high school all those years. I'm, certified to have a master's in Spanish literature. I went to grad school. I wanted to be a university professor. I've taught as an adjunct, and I love
Mhm.
it. Okay, so when I've done diversity, equity, and inclusion training
Mhm.
for a big construction company all over the U.S. I was on a plane almost every week last fall, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm tired." And then I'm going back to back, and then I'm also doing Spanish for Black girls. So I never miss a beat with my clients, and with the students that are in the course because I want to give people what they're paying for, right? And
Mhm.
I want to make sure they're having the experience they're supposed to have. And it was fun. It was amazing. But I was working with native speakers when I was doing the diversity, equity, and inclusion training. So training them in Spanish and delivering that, and it was so much fun. It was so cool. And I share this with you because I have um, just exposure to not only teaching at the high school level, right, but
Mhm.
then also teaching at the collegiate level, right. I've been a grad teaching assistant, so I taught other adults, at my university during the summer, and so I just want people to know. And then I work with actual business owners in Spanish for
Mhm.
small business. So right now I have an immigration attorney client and, he's doing
Wow.
amazing. I have a systems administrator. I've worked with medical professionals, social workers, real estate, just lots of industries where sometimes people want private instruction tailored to them.
Mhm.
I do that. And then Spanish for Black girls was like, oh, okay, so you don't need private instruction. You like to learn in community.
Mhm.
You want a robust course plus community where you can log in at 2 a.m. if you're on a flight and you can't sleep and be learning Spanish. Okay, sure, here you go. Right. It has listenings built in, it has assessments built in this course plus community. And then we culminate it if you want to join us on an international immersion trip. So I'm super excited. I was looking at villas today. You understand what I'm saying? Since my
Woman
client,
after my own heart.
since my
I look
client,
at villas and I look at yachts. That's how I spend my
yes.
time.
Well, since my clients are professional Black women, and my course isn't like $2. It's not 247. It's not free 99, right?
Mhm.
Because this is what I do for a living. I'm a small business, right? So I'm a Black woman. I'm a professional, and I give a lot, and I think it's really economic compared to what you would pay somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
And so, but people aren't accustomed to those prices sometimes. And so they're like, oh, this is too much. And I'll be like, baby, what's too much for me to like be there for you every month, helping you
Mhm.
practice, helping you speak, uh,
Yes. Pay Black
doing
women.
these additional things. Like we have something special that we do inside the course every month. I have a language coach that I hired who's from Mexico, and I have her create something special inside the course every month.
Oh,
And
nice.
so, I'm always thinking, right? I'm
Yes.
always
I
thinking and then
love the creativity.
creating and building. And so
Yeah.
I think it's like really cheap. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
tell
And
you because I done paid for some stuff as an entrepreneur.
look, people pay for these expensive phones or anything else that they find that has value and importance to them. And if
Mhm.
learning another language, whether it be like you said for employment or leisure or just, an activity or moving abroad is important, you will make the investment. And we also need to reiterate, pay Black
Black
women,
women, Black
right?
women. The reason
And
why I
if you
say that,
could
the
put
reason
the in the chat, if you could put the link to Spanish for Black girls there's a private
oh,
chat,
let me do
and
that.
then I can grab it and I can put it in the chat roll for our people that are in the audience, and I see H&D abroad. They said they're in Mexico struggling right now. And
Oh.
so H&D says, can read the language, recognize words, but can't get my brain to hear the words in conversation fast enough.
Mm-hmm. Keep going. And of course, you can join Spanish for Black Girls, and it will help you learn a lot. All right. So basically, the course, y'all, what I do is I teach you Spanish from the ground up, which means bite sized lessons. Nothing's too long or too hard, examples, practice. And then I show you how to put the language together. And then I start teaching you based on scenario. So there's a beautiful travel unit that is just going to blow your mind. I talk about all the things that I know that are important, like everyday language, shopping, travel. We even focus on a little bit of vocab, right? I don't want to do every career out there, but we have a section that's like talking to employees, talking to coworkers, and why is that different, right? And so it's so much more in there. So good. So I put the website, SpanishForBlackGirls.com. And when you go to the website, if you're just getting accustomed to me and you're like, oh, well, let me just see what she's about, we have a freebie. It's called our top 40 phrases that you need to know now. So that's on the homepage. You can grab that. And if you keep scrolling down, you'll see information about the two plans. And you can just click on those links and just learn what's in it. And got questions, just send me a message on Facebook or Instagram. I got you. I'll respond back.
Awesome. And
Oh,
then,
I'm
okay.
sorry. We have a free Facebook group, y'all. I forgot.
Oh, yeah. And if
Free
you can drop
Facebook.
the link, if you want to drop the link to that one, I'll pop it in there too.
Let me grab it.
Um, so Action VJ says, let's see, Krishan, how much time per week did you dedicate to learning, and how much time does Miss Lamb recommend? That's a good question. When I started doing Portuguese with Carla, I was doing up to 2 hours a day. And I was able to keep that pace up for a while. But the closer I started getting to life being 2023, packing up my house, getting my daughter graduated, getting everything here, also shepherding Black Sick Global and recording the podcast, the time started to eat away. And so now that I'm here, now I'm trying to build back up to like what's my regular routine. Either turn on the news just so I can start hearing a little bit more of the language, doing a little bit of exposure to lessons, and then obviously when I'm outside and being immersed. But really curious, Kaywanda, what your thought is on how much time should someone spend?
I think you spend the time you want to spend. With my course, I tell students 2 to 3 hours a week. What you were doing is awesome because you were hungry and you were excited and you needed it and you wanted it. And we think about how we learn at school, how, if we're in college, you go 3 times a week, maybe for an hour and two. And so for you to do 2 hours, that's a day, like 5 days a week. That's
Yeah.
phenomenal, right? That's phenomenal. I meet
Thank you.
with students every other week. So they spend
Oh,
as much time as they want in the course because everything is self-paced and created for them. So they can go in there and they can go through as many, modules as they want. It does drip out to you over time. So everything doesn't become available to you at once because I don't want you skipping past things. Even if you've had it before, I want people to go through the steps because you're going to see something that you've forgotten, right?
mm,
And it's going to just, don't be afraid to go back over and recap things, right? And
mm,
so even with you going 2 hours a day, you're in Portugal now, and you have moments where you feel like, oh, I don't feel confident enough to say that, or I don't have the words to say that. Also, don't allow yourself to run from things.
mm,
And stand flat-footed and just give, even if you think, oh, I'm taking too long to respond, learn how to say un momento por favor, espera, or, I know you know
mm.
how to do that in Portuguese, and
Yeah.
allow what you need to come to you. And the reason why I say that is that's how you keep building. That's how you keep training your brain that you
Mm,
can do it, because fear will come in and
mm.
tell you that you can't do it. And that's not true.
Wow, that's powerful advice for sure. And I'm gonna take that because that is important. And so Jess wants to know if listening and repeating will be helpful in learning.
Of course, listening and repeating and what you're doing with watching the news and the television is going to be so important. But like I said, if you just watch things to watch them,
Mm,
it was great. Oh, that was fun. When you're watching things, especially if you're stationary, take notes. Okay, take notes
Mm.
about things. Um, because, last week when I did the challenge, I do something called Speak Spanish Like a Native. It's a challenge that I host every couple months. We'll do one more at the beginning of, I think this is a Facebook group. I made like wait a minute. Yeah, that's the Facebook.
Okay.
I
Make
was
sure
like,
you give me the right link.
I was looking for the little URL shortened thing, but I couldn't
Oh,
find it.
yes. Yes.
So during the challenge, I actually teach them how to speak Spanish like a native, right? And what that is, on day one, everybody's baffled. Like, you taught us the alphabet? Yeah, but the way I teach you the alphabet is different from how everybody else might teach you the alphabet. And then I give them homework. And then each day I give them another skill and a piece, and then I give them homework. And most people think I learned the alphabet 5 years ago. I don't need to go over the alphabet. But see, if you out here mispronouncing Portuguese, you need to go back over the alphabet. If you're out here mispronouncing Spanish, you need to go back over the alphabet. And if you're out here saying, I heard a whole bunch of Spanish, but I didn't hear anything, you need to go back over
Mhm.
the alphabet. Because
Yes.
once you understand the sounds that the language makes, and so if I know the letters and I know the sound that the letters make, and then those letters put together make words, now I should start hearing more words. Even if I hear words that I don't know how
Mm.
to spell, I showed those ladies in the challenge last week. I said, okay, write something down that you heard that you don't know what it is. I said, now, then I want you to go look and see if it's a real word. Then I want you to go look it up. See, if you're not willing to do that, you don't
Yes.
want to be fluent. Because let me tell you how I got fluent. I went to university. All
Mhm.
right. I went to university now. I had Latin and French in high school. What did I do? I did the coursework that the people gave me. I did
Mm.
homework. I did all the stuff in class. My other friends, my cousins, like we had Latin one, and I wanted to take Latin two. And at that time, I'm from a small town in Louisiana, and we had to have a satellite class because we didn't have obviously able the ability to afford to pay an actual teacher in person. So our French teacher would sit in with us while the Latin teacher on the television taught us, who was in Tennessee. Make sense?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so at the time in the 90s, we had satellite classes. And
Mhm.
so I'm all excited. I'd have made my A's in Latin one. I'd have made a cum laude on the national Latin exam,
Ooh.
along with the valedictorian. And the teacher's like, okay, who wants to sign up for Latin too? And I'm like, me. Everybody else is giving me the side eye. Okay. Do you know the difference? The difference is I wanted it and they were
Mm.
over it. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Some of y'all get over it too soon and it's stopping you from becoming fluent. What you have to do when you hit a wall is go
Mhm.
through that wall. Okay. So you know how they have these memes out now, sis, where they're like, I just saw one the other day with LeBron James' wife must have been looking good in a commercial. So some guy took a picture of her, looking beautiful, talking about Savannah out here trying to make people run through a wall. Got to do run through a wall. That's their way of saying that she, looks good.
Yeah.
And so some of us, if we really want to be fluent, we have to be ready to run through that wall. What do I mean? That block, that thing that tells us we can't do it.
Mhm.
When we feel like it's too hard. When you get to a certain level of where your brain, and I literally say, I say your brain is ready to flip into being bilingual, it's going to feel too hard. It's going to feel like I need to just stop. I need to push back. I've been doing too much, but don't believe it, right?
Mm.
You need to keep going. And let me tell you why I say that real quick. When I was doing a study abroad in Peru, I was talking to my house mom, and this was years ago. And I said, how do you know when you're bilingual? How do you know when you have the two languages? She said, when you dream in Spanish, you will know. While I was there that week, my dream, all the people were talking in Spanish. And I remember getting up that morning, running downstairs to her. It's like, oh my God, everybody in my dream was speaking in Spanish.
Oh
And
my
so for you in Portugal, you're going to have a moment when it
gosh.
finally flips, when your brain does the somersault, and you're going to be, I came back from Peru going to the mall because I had kids. I came back, picked up
Mhm.
my children, and we had gone to the mall. And I'm in the mall. My brain is so flipped to Spanish that people are talking to me in English, and I'm talking back to them in Spanish. And I'm like, oh, no, what did I say? What did I say? I had to flip back. So I know y'all don't like my answers, but I'm trying to tell you, like, you have to be hungry. And I'm not saying you ain't gotta do 10 hours a day. You don't have to do 5. I tell people if you can get 15 minutes in, but it's
Mhm.
15 minutes where it's focused work. You paid attention.
Ah,
You didn't just do something to be doing it, right?
mhm.
That's why I have a thing with everything that I do. It has to be Spanish that you're going to use. Like I know
Yeah.
how to talk about dictatorships because of
Mhm.
grad school. I know how to talk about
Oh, wow.
politics and all this stuff. I don't want to
Mhm.
talk about that all day, but these words are in my head. You know,
Yep.
I can pull those things out. What good is that doing me? I don't need that in daily life. What we need
Mhm.
in us is stuff that we use every day. What are you
Yeah.
talking about at your job? How do you get from your apartment to the grocery store and back? How do you
Mhm.
talk to the cab driver? How do you order food in Spanish
Yeah.
or in Portuguese or in
Mhm.
Italian or wherever you're going to go? How do you do daily life? If there's a medical emergency, how do you explain to people what's going on with you? You know,
Mhm.
if you're going to
That's
move abroad,
important.
girl,
Yeah.
if you're going to move abroad and you have certain things that you need or you have an allergy to something,
Mhm.
baby, I'm not leaving this soil to that soil before somebody has shown me how to say it because I'm going to
Yes.
need to know. Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
great point. That's a great point because you don't want to get yourself out there. And there's a friend that's visiting from Mexico,
Hmm.
an American, and had an unfortunate accident over the weekend and had to go to the hospital. And thankfully, the place that he was staying at, the proprietor took him to the hospital
Hmm.
and translated in Portuguese for him. But that's a great example. Like things can happen. Portugal has all these hills, right?
Hmm.
And also sometimes some areas uneven cobblestone, and anything can happen. Whether it's Portugal and Mexico, anywhere in the world, right? And if you
Hmm.
can't explain that my arm hurts, or I need to go to the hospital or something like that, that's really
Hmm.
important. And like for me, I've started to like make my grocery list for the store in Portuguese because I already know what it is in English. So now I'm like, okay, what's the word for this? And then I keep seeing it. So I'm like, oh, you know
Hmm.
what? Let me just put it in Portuguese. And then when I go to the store, then I can find what I need.
Yes.
And I know Halisi's in the comments, and I know she does. And I did this when I was in my old apartment. I haven't done it here with the post-it notes around. So I had on the microwave. I remember I had that when I was back in the States learning. And so
Mhm.
they ask, what is an unknown tip to help learn a language as an adult?
Unknown. Oh wow. Are there any unknowns? And I do teach my students to like label everything. Yeah, so there are lots of little tips and tricks that I teach them. Unknown tip to learn language as an adult. There are so many people who are like, learn a language fast.
Mhm.
My thing is, how much of that language are you retaining? I just meet so many people who are like, I was fluent, and I'm like, what happened? How did you lose it? Right, the practice and unknown tip. I wouldn't say it's unknown. I would just say make your mind up about it and practice every day. I gave you the alphabet for a reason. Everybody wants to be like, that's so elementary. But I'm telling you, if you want to speak Portuguese like a native, if you want to speak Spanish like a native, if you want to speak Italian like a native, learn how the language sounds, then learn how to put the language together. What I would tell you is learn how to mimic native speakers. This is why people tell me I have like a Latin American accent. My professors from Peru and from Spain, sometimes I just like playing with accents. Y'all could tell because I took languages in high school. I was always that nerd who liked, learning languages, right? So even now, my French that I had from high school and the French for reading I had in grad school, sometimes, I'll be like, pronouncing French. My son went to Canada recently to visit one of his friends, and they sent all these snacks and stuff back. So my kid is like, "How do you pronounce this?" And I'm like, "Oh, this probably sounds like this." So I'm reading the French to him. Where did that go? Where did that come from? It came from the 2 years I spent in high school 30 years ago. It came from the summer I had to do French for reading, and the year I took the wrong French classes in grad school, y'all. I'll tell y'all that story another time. But it comes from, and that was I graduated in 2011, so that's the extent of my French. And this is what 12 years later, and it's
Yeah.
still a lot of it is still there. Now I'm not going around fluent in French, but I can
Mhm.
pronounce and I can kind of figure some things out. So the thing that I would tell you is let's stop looking for tips and tricks and we got to just do it. So that's what I meant when I said earlier, like I learned in university. You don't have to go to university because you don't want to be a Spanish teacher. I had to learn the language, I had to learn the culture, I had to learn all of this history, that people feel like I need to know. Um,
Mhm.
and what I do is I've taken what you really need for you to speak in your everyday life and I put it into a course, right? So
Mhm.
just learn the pieces. Learn the pieces. Learn how the language sounds. Learn how the language works. Listen, watch movies, watch TV shows, practice what you hear. When I said mimic native speakers, I'm not saying like make fun of or anything like that, but notice how people sound. Sofia
Mhm.
Vergara from Modern Family, she's from Colombia. So the way
Yes.
that she talks and she's so funny and she's hilarious to me, it almost nasally reminds me of my family who's from Chicago. But when you
Mm.
listen to her, you'll kind of pick up, somewhat of a Colombian accent. People from Colombia might be like, "Oh, she's changed," or her accent is more Americanized because she's been here. Who knows? People do it,
Ah.
right? People do that to all of us, right?
Mhm.
Um, my friends who are here, like my professors from Peru and Spain, we're all friends and stuff now. They gave me a run for my money in grad school. I mean, like, I was like, listen, don't be telling, I'm an author, so I've written books for in the single mom brand, and I had them at my book signing. And everybody gets up to talk and share, and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, Katie's is like one of my best students. Her ideas." And I say, "Well, listen, that B you gave me, you can go back and change it. Don't be over here telling people how
See how
awesome."
wrong you were about that bee?
But the point to what I'm getting at is that professor, even though she's Peruvian and she goes back to Peru, her family will say, you sound kind of like you have a little bit more of an American accent. So we're
Mm.
all going to have those shifts and changes.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter. Your goal is to look and see what's the cadence, what's the flow, and
Mm.
just speak. Get you somewhere, whether it's with me or somebody else, and learn the language. A lot of y'all are on apps and other programs. If you already purchased it, go all in. Quit playing.
Mm.
Go all
Mm.
in. Right.
Yeah.
And some stuff, I feel like I'm the best, but hey, do what you do. Do
Yeah.
what you can do
Mhm.
and use what you have. Go all in. Right.
Mm, I love that.
The shiny object syndrome, we got to stop it. But
Yeah.
but here's the deal. I do have people who I've worked with in my one-to-one who were just exhausted. They had been doing all the apps, they had other programs, and they were like, why am I still not fluent? And I said, okay,
Yeah.
we'll work together for 90 days and I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show
Mhm.
you. I said, because that's not designed to make you fluent. Do you not understand? Go to them people website and they will
Yeah.
tell you, can you put little
I did Duolingo, and
they,
I'm like,
they have
"Oh,
it on their website.
cat ate the frog," and it's like,
They're like,
"How am I
there's
going to
no
use this in a conversation?"
girl. I was when I was an educator early on. This is in before we got to 2010. Y'all started. The schools were all excited about them, and I think it's really good. They've grown a lot. It's great
Mhm.
practice. It's a low entry. It's not you're not having to spend a lot or anything to get in there and learn. And the people that they have used, they probably use real educators to help build that out. So I honor them with that, right? But at the same time, what they're not teaching you is what I end up teaching you, which is the thing that
Mhm.
everybody hates, which is the grammar. But you can't hate grammar and say you want to be fluent. You can't. Now,
Yeah.
let me show you something. You can't hate grammar, comma, and say you want to be fluent, period. That was a whole sentence, and that was grammar. Who's my subject? You. What's my verb? Can't. Can't hate, right? All right. So that's English grammar. You learned it. If I told you to write that sentence, you would write it. Now,
Mhm.
to put it in Portuguese or to put it in Spanish, everybody would be like, ooh, right? But you said you wanted to be fluent.
Yeah.
So if you want to be fluent, learn the things that it takes. And
Yeah.
that's what I give you. So Duolingo is going to give you, you know, all the things that they can give you in a free app situation. When you
Mhm.
want more, when you want speaking practice, when you want partners, when you want accountability, when you want support, when you want to be able to message your teacher and say, did I get this right? Or why did
Mhm.
I get this wrong? We have a space for you.
Mhm.
Let me
So
be
when
quiet,
you want
Krishan. I told you I could talk.
No, this is good. Winnie wants to know when learning multiple languages is it better to learn one at a time? And I know like our Black Utopia is doing Spanish and Portuguese at the same time. Some people are moving or actually getting residency in multiple countries, so that requires them to
Mhm.
learn two. So is it confusing to the brain or is it just as good?
I think it depends on the person. This person sounds like they can handle two languages at a time. Some people I've talked to literally only need to be doing one, right? Portuguese and Spanish are similar in many ways. So as they're learning, they're probably like, "Oh, okay, I see the similarity. I see the similarity." See,
Mhm.
I'm a nerd and I'm a polyglot. So growing up in small town Louisiana, I had no idea what that meant. That means I like learning languages. There may be other people who like learning languages and just things open up for them. They may have a foundation already and learning another foreign language. So things just start weaving together and piecing together and it just makes sense. But if you know you're not that kind of person, learn one language at a time. Because if you're doing multiple, it could be stopping any progress that you could be making. For example, I'm a K-drama lover, right? But I already have a great command of Spanish, near native fluency, right? And in English,
Mhm.
native fluency, right? I say near native because I'm thinking of like the highest level you could go as far as like the UN
Ah,
discussing politics
okay.
and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. I'm not talking about like beginner. I'm advanced for all intents and purposes for everybody, everybody else, right?
Yeah.
When I said that I'm talking about up here, somewhere that
Yeah.
none of us really want to be discussing politics, right? In Spanish. But I had a student that was doing research and she needed to talk to the embassy in Mexico and I was helping her with all that. And so that's why I said that. So one of the things that I realized because I like K dramas is just by watching K dramas, I'm picking up on words. I probably got like 30, 40 words I can say. And if I'm not paying attention and doing something else and I hear
Mhm.
it, I can tell what's going on in the scene without even looking
Mm.
because I've heard those words before. And so if
Mm.
you keep at it with one language, you will grow so much in that one language, right? But if you have a brain that allows you to have English going on at the same time, Spanish going on at the same time, Portuguese going on at the same time, go for it. If that's what you
Mm.
like. I wouldn't recommend it. I would tell somebody to focus on one language at a time unless they have a multilingual brain
Mm.
and a foundation and experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so how would you know that you have that versus having like, oh, I want to learn
Because
these
it
two.
comes easy to you. You find it fun. It's not frustrating you. You like
Mm.
it, and you're just like, "Oop, got my Portuguese. Oop, study Spanish today. Oop," and now I'm practicing,
Yeah.
and you're out and you're practicing with your Portuguese with people. So, like, for
Mm.
you, if you were to like, you're in Portugal, you know that your Portuguese isn't as strong as you want it to be, but you joined Spanish for Black girls. Now you're learning Spanish. Well, you kinda get away with it because the Portuguese people, a lot of them know Spanish, right, since they're
Mm. Yeah.
neighbors. But would that make your Portuguese stronger?
Mm.
Because 'Cause you're not practicing your Portuguese. So
Yeah.
while you're like, strong beginner, close to intermediate in your Portuguese, why not go ahead and get intermediate and then move yourself up to advanced?
Mm.
Get really solid in your Portuguese. You've moved to Portugal. Is this
Yeah.
like forever home or like 10-year
Mhm.
plan? What you thinking about?
I would say 7 to 10 years.
7 to 10 years. Give yourself a good year or 2 in
Mhm.
Portuguese.
Yeah.
And even with you just traveling over to Spain and other parts of Europe, you're gonna
Mhm.
hear other languages. You're gonna
Yeah.
see similarities, but get yourself really strong in your Portuguese and then
Mhm.
add in your Spanish. You know what I'm saying? Because you
Mhm.
will have kept your promise to yourself. I tell people this all the time, keep your promises to yourself. You said you
Yeah.
wanna be fluent, follow through, 'cause you're gonna hit a wall, and then guess what? You might get to Portuguese and hit that same wall, and it's
Mhm.
probably that same grammar point that's making
Ah,
you go
okay.
crazy in both languages.
Yep. That
But why
is
not
so
ask for the answer? Just ask for the answer. Learn what it is,
mhm.
incorporate it. So
So, this is the all about the Move Abroad crew. So the obvious question, hey Tanisha, is Miss Lamb overseas already or planning her relocation? Are
estoy
we
en
going to get an
Texas,
exclusive?
estoy en Texas, yo tengo niños, estoy en Texas, pero un día Yo quiero vivir en Costa Rica. Sí, es mi país favorito. Sí.
Oh, wow. That was
Sí.
my second. Yeah, no. Well, the first country I scouted was New Zealand. And then
Mhm.
when I needed to country shop, once my daughter said that New Zealand was too far, Costa Rica was
Mhm.
the place that I scouted. So, oh, that is your favorite country. All right.
I
Okay.
have some
Cool.
friends in Australia, and, just as I've been teaching over the years, I had a student and his dad came in, and, for parent night one night, he was talking, and I said, "Australia?" And he said, "New Zealand." So their accent sounds very similar, but now I feel like I can pick it up very much the difference. Yeah,
Yes, I can hear
and
the
that's cool that
difference.
you wanted to go to New Zealand. Aborigines or, like, what was the pull for New Zealand?
Ever since I was a little girl and growing up in the Bronx, I was obsessed with moving to New Zealand, and then finally went in 2017. That laid the seeds for my Black Sit now in 2023. And then, my daughter was like, I'm going up to college. That's like 28 hours away. So
Mhm,
flying time. So that, put me on the country shopping. And then Costa Rica I went to first. That didn't work
mhm,
out for
mhm,
moving there for me. And
mhm.
then Portugal was my second choice, and ultimately where I am.
Yay, I
Who knows
love
where I'm gonna
it.
go after that? Like I might go to Southeast Asia. I don't know. So that's why I say
Mhm.
10 years, but who knows, right? Like I tell people all the time, like you're not a tree. So you spend some time in one country, you can go to another. That is the beauty of this adventure that we call this thing life.
I love
Um,
it, I love it.
Lynette said, do you recommend seeking a native language speaking partner to converse with in addition to taking classes?
I think it's great to talk to people. I say go for it if you want to, and if you can afford it, go for it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Coworkers, family, friends, all that stuff. I will say, like, um, your friends, if it's friends, they're going to teach you like native things. They're going to teach you like colloquial things.
Mhm,
They're going to always teach you like the stuff that they say. They may not teach you formally, right? So have fun and learn both, right? When I
mhm,
work with people, I always tend to teach. Obviously, we teach academic Spanish, but then I'll say, okay, so you'll see this, maybe you'll see this kind of slang word, or maybe you'll notice some native speakers from here do this, right? But because I never know if my students are going to have to, do a presentation at work, right?
mhm,
Or write. I want to teach them properly, but have fun. Like learn from everywhere that you can. If you are in a program, focus in that program. Like I have some students, and I'll tell them, I was like, "You're doing too much. You're doing too much." I said, in this course, everything you need is in here. If you will just log in and just go through it, right?
mhm,
But we tell ourselves that we need to do more, right? What you need is a good
mhm.
foundation. Go through, get this good foundation, then start trying to talk to people. Like we practice with each other. And obviously, obviamente yo hablo español, entonces, ¿sí? Right?
Sí.
So I practice and notice, speak Spanish like a native. Well, how
Mhm,
do I know how to do that? Well, I, went to grad school. I was the only Black person. Everybody else in there is, mostly Hispanic. We had maybe like a white person here or there, right? When
mhm,
I graduated, it was me and one other student who was Hispanic. Two ladies graduated from my program on time. Everybody else was going to school like taking a class like a semester. And I
yeah,
was just like, oh no, y'all gonna give me the most I could take, right? I'm gonna do this 3-year thing. Okay.
yeah.
My professor was like, nobody does that. I was like, well, hello, my name is Kaywanda, and I would like to take 4 classes a semester.
Wow.
You know, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. I missed grad school for just the ideas and the conversation
Mhm,
and just the crazy stuff you can talk about that you don't talk about with regular people. But teacher stuff, right? But you don't have to do all that. All you have to do is wherever you're learning. You just said you're taking classes and talk. If you're encountering people in your day to day, talk to them if you can. If not,
mhm,
focus on the program you're actually taking, especially if it already includes you talking to someone. If
mhm,
it's like a self study and you don't have anybody to talk to, then yes, try to get somebody to
mhm.
practice with. But I wouldn't do that until you like really had some Spanish under your belt. Like, are you
Okay.
confident in the Spanish you have under your belt? tonight in Spanish for Black girls. Now, if all y'all go over there and start trying to join, I don't know if I can let everybody in before.
Because the questions are coming. Because Susie said, "Is there a live component to the course? When do we
Yes.
get to practice conversations?"
All right, there's a live component to my course, right? So what happens is Spanish for Black girls is a self-paced course plus community. What does that mean? So the course is all created, laid out, done. Took me a long time to labor and build and put all those pieces together. And then what we do is, because we know you need time because you got regular jobs. Some of y'all have families, right? You have things to do. You have a week where you're working in the course, and then there's a week where we meet, right? And so you can work in the course all the days of the month, right? It's up to you. But you work in the course, and then we meet the following week. Once a week, we meet for about 2 hours because I do live Q&A. In that live Q&A, I'm answering questions. People are in different parts of the course. I'm answering their questions. And then that last hour, we get together and we practice, right? And so I partner them up, with each other. And then there's another, so then we alternate, right? There's a week where we're off, where your job is to be working through the course. We have accountability built in. So we have some accountability sessions where you pop on, you can log on and you can work in the course. You can also ask questions, set your intentions. And then the following week, we are back again. I do something special on that first Tuesday of the month, right? Like I said, I bring my language coach in. You're always learning something. This week we had a movie night. Actually, was it this? It was last week we had movie night, and we always pick a different theme for every month, and it was awesome. And so, of course, we don't just watch a movie. We're asking you questions. We're showing you things in Spanish. We're discussing, and it was just awesome. The ladies really love it. And then we do our international immersion trip, but we have bi-weekly we meet for live Q&A, which also ends up also allowing us to have conversational practice. I found that to be the system that works because I used to offer more times. Used to do sometimes during the day, sometimes at night, and I would be on by myself because these people, a lot of my students, they run their own businesses, they're in corporate, they work, they have families. And I was just like, okay, this is what works for us. And so, and it ends up being great. And so then some of them find, friends, and they become partners and connect. And it's more than enough. It's more than enough practice. Like, I see some people saying you have to spend like 10 hours a week. And I'm just like, remember I taught high school, right? Remember I did this for a really long time. So what are we really doing? People are always like, I'm conjugating my verbs. Okay, that's great. Learning how to do that is great. But your job is you need to remember those endings so you can say them in real life. So what good does it do you to spend all those hours writing, reading, doing all of that if you're not speaking it? And so, it's a course plus community. So other professional Black women who are just like you, who desire to be fluent, they show up, you show up, we all meet, we connect. It's really fun. Everybody's really awesome.
Is there a placement test is the question?
Oh no, because see, the course is for if you're a beginner to intermediate, right? And some people are past that if they want to join just to get a refresher and have that community and just go over things, because there's going to be some stuff that I put in there that you probably weren't taught. So the part where we go over workplace and the travel, when you talked about emergencies and stuff, I put things in there to help people. I'm telling you, it's really good, girl. We even added a little dating section. Okay, all right, the ladies, girl, listen, I told y'all, and y'all, I have to be stopped because I keep thinking like, what else do I want to add? And it's just like, stop it, Kaywanda. It's like 17 modules, right? It's 17 modules. It's probably like 100 little lessons and things that just keep each other. There's practice. It's just really good. There are handouts. There's a workbook that I created that's like your textbook. Then there are additional workbooks and resources that you get. I'm an educator. It's good. It's really good. And I'm not just saying that. So I try not to tell everything that's in it because people be nosy. Who aren't my customers.
Angel said, "Wow, this must be fate. I've been wanting to continue to learn Spanish for a while. Now to find Spanish for Black girls here in my city of Dallas. And you are from Chicago, my native city." Ah, look at that.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes. I'm telling you now, everything we do is virtual. everything we do is virtual. We meet virtually, and then we like get to see each other in real life when we do our international immersion trip. Like I remember, earlier this year when we met, like we hadn't met in person, but we see each other all the time on the computer, and it was
Mhm.
just so good to hang out, y'all. When I tell y'all, I try to just really go all out when we have the international immersion. Like we're learning, I'm
Yeah.
taking you around. You're having all these scenarios to use your Spanish. Um, and then I also, because we're hardworking Black women, why should we go to such a beautiful tropical paradise and not actually get some rest in? So
Yes.
that's why I said I'm looking at villas and stuff. And so we're getting ready to close registration for January 2024. I will tell you, Krishan, I know you're like, girl, stop talking. We almost done. Okay, okay, okay. There's a Go to www.spanishforblackgirls.com to learn more about the course. There are two
Yeah.
plans. We have a 6-month plan and we have an annual plan. If you're just like, listen, I know I'm gonna need a year, get the year. If you do
Mm.
6 months and you want to re-up, you just join again. But it's amazing. It's really fun. And
You know, and
it's really good Spanish. It's the Spanish that you will use everywhere, right?
it's important to know another language. And like I said, this is one that I want to reiterate. And just judging by the comments in the chat, people are talking about, oh, I'm learning Korean, I'm learning Spanish. A lot of people move to Mexico. And
Mhm.
like I said, it gives you depth of your experience when you're able to be conversational. And so I know Action VJ had wanted to know if you were going to add Portuguese, because we've been talking about both languages. Is that on the roadmap at any point in
No hablo
time?
portugués, no hablo portugués, yo no sé. No hablo
Ooh.
portugués. But, I will tell you, I told you I'm an idea generator. There are some things I envision for the future, but right now I'm focusing on Spanish for Black girls and Spanish for small business. And so
Mhm.
I have to just leave it at that. But yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
and
excited
then
about what's coming. Oh, congrats on your move. Felicidades. Oh,
yes, Servant Teacher
beautiful.
Nikki is one of our YouTube channel members. So
Oh,
be
Nikki.
like Servant Nikki, Servant Teacher Nikki, join.
Yay.
Yay.
Nikki,
So
of course.
moving to Mexico. Yes.
She said, will it help me in a short amount of time? Nikki, and the thing is, you start learning now, and then you still will have access to the course because you have a 6-month plan or annual plan. Are you kidding me? Ma'am, yes. But listen, so also, y'all, because I'm an educator, I used to know these textbooks, like what pages something was on. My students would ask me later in the year, they'd be like, Miss Lamb, where was this? We're preparing for a final or something. I'd be like, oh, that was chapter such and such, page, da 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 da. Right. So when I sat down to build this, I'm synthesizing what I've learned in
Mm.
undergrad, what I've learned in grad school, what I've learned traveling abroad, and what I've learned teaching students, all the different materials, right? What I've seen adults need, what my friends need when I'm with them, and I'm always translating for everybody. Okay, I got
Yeah.
some stories to tell y'all. Ask me about DR one
I'm
time.
sure you do.
How me and my girlfriend ended up off the resort on the back of mopeds, okay, with some dudes we met at the club. Okay, but you better believe I'm translating, I'm listening, I'm paying attention. All right, I don't do nothing crazy now. I'm gonna know what's going on around me.
That part.
So point to the story is yes, yes, and yes. I built it so you could go through it in 90 days. But what I really want you to do is to have it, to go back through it, to just go back to the modules that you know you need,
Mm.
to continue to have that practice, and then to come into our community and to practice with me. Like I had a student who she's in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and she moved to Spain for 3 months last year. I better
Oh,
believe sis was living her best life, and then she would log on, for our night sessions. It's Spain. Like, I mean, we can meet
wow.
at like 7 p.m. What's that like? Trying to do the
Yeah,
math.
that's
Like
what,
2 a.m.
10, 11,
You
probably?
know, and
Yeah.
she was committed. She put herself in the environment because she could. I was like, gosh, I can't wait. Let me get these kids where they need to be. And so my boys are older, but I'm still their mama. I'm like, I can't go nowhere just yet. I got, how you have some who you just like, I need to be around. I need to be
No,
around.
I have one of those, but
Yeah,
I still left.
you're just like, I was listen, call me if you need something, okay? And so, so that's kind of been my thing, right? Making sure they're good. And
Yeah.
then, but the whole point is, y'all, if you come in, if you go through and you do, there is no way you can't learn Spanish with the way I have laid it out, because I sat down and I said, okay, what do people need? How do we learn as adults? What kind of
Mhm.
practice do we need? What kind of support do we need? And that's why I've built it the way I built it.
Mhm.
Of course, there's some people who would love, for us to like, oh, let's meet 5 days a week. Absolutely not. Not doing it. I'm not doing it. No.
I love that.
We're building a
Absolutely.
lifestyle business here, y'all. This is
Yeah.
everything's built on my lifestyle. My one-to-one clients, my business owner clients, we meet 1 hour a week. That 1 hour is so intense. I work their
Mhm.
behinds off in that 1 hour. And then they have homework that I create for them. So
Wow.
Spanish for Black Girls gets a lot of what I already had years of doing in, with my one-to-one clients. It's just that it's focused on helping you learn the bits and pieces of the language that you need in the areas that you need. So check out the website, y'all. Check out the sales pages. Look to see what's all included. It's really good. It's really good. It's really good.
Yeah. So a yoga bliss dance. Hey.
Thank
That
you.
beautiful website.
Thank
And
you.
servant teacher Nikki said yes. So hopefully, I already know that, the folks are going to be getting on there, doing that keyboard and signing up. And at the very least, like whether it's Portuguese, Korean, Spanish, whatever, Italian, any language, the goal of this conversation really was to reinforce that one, it's
It's
never too
important.
late and it's important. And two, don't let language be a barrier to your move abroad. So if there's a country that, aligns with your values and your wants and your needs and your desires for your life, don't eliminate that because you're like, oh, I'd have to learn this or I'm too old. You're creating mental roadblocks for yourself and barriers where now there's a path forward. So hopefully this conversation was enlightening as much as it was inspiring. And I'm all about not only being inspired, but taking inspired action. So whether or not you join Miss Lamb in her course and her program, or whatever program you find that fits your lifestyle, I think this is something that I hope will stick with you. So, on that note, it has been a pleasure,
Ha
Kaywanda.
sido un placer estar aquí con ustedes también. Muchísimas gracias por tenerme esta noche. Wow. Thank you all so much. It's been a pleasure to chat with you. I was looking at your event you're going to have, and I was like, well, I'm not moving to Portugal. But then I was like, let's look and see what the benefits are. So I'll be coming to talk. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Thank you all. I'm so glad you guys came, and I hope it was a blessing to you. Grab the freebie on my website, join the free Facebook group. Oh, I was going to say, Krishan, real quick,
Yeah.
that's what I said. I don't know if I can get all y'all in, but some of you who are learning Spanish, I just started doing something. Tonight is the first night. We're going to do like a speed immersion. And so
Ooh.
that's in the Facebook group, but then there's a Zoom link to
Mhm.
it. And I got room for 100 people. Okay. So if you want to join, pop over
There's
there.
57 of y'all watching. So guess what? Hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel, and then dart on over there and get one of those seats.
Like, subscribe. And also, I just wanted to say, I'm not teaching Spanish. I'm providing a space for you to practice Spanish, in this speed immersion. And that's what it's all about. Because the people who were in the challenge last week, they want to talk to each other some more. So that's what we're doing. All right. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you.
you.
And those of you who are watching the replay, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. For those of you who are joining late, definitely catch the replay. You'll find some informative information. And the Zoom link is in the Facebook group. That was the last question.
The Zoom link is in the free Facebook group, Spanish for Black Girls, free. If you want to learn 2 languages, and if you can learn 2 languages, I say go for it. Earlier, we answered the question and we said, I think you should focus on one and get really strong in the one you need the most. And so
Yeah.
thank you all. Have a blessed
All right.
evening.
Talk to y'all later. See you next week. Bye, y'all. Thanks for joining. Thanks for tuning in.